I'll see for myself what kind of Ford this country can produce. Today we're going to be talking about what might be the biggest question in the Blue Lock community right now. What exactly is going to happen with Itoshi Sae? Will he be playing in the U20 World Cup? And if so, what country is he going to represent? Some people think he's going to be playing for Spain since he's lived there for 5 years and most likely has nationality now. Others believe there's no way he doesn't play for Japan again, especially after everything that's happened in the story. The theories don't stop there though, because one person on Twitter even went as far as saying that the author might actually kill off Itoshi Sae, and we're definitely going to be talking about that in today's video. Anyways, if you enjoy staying up to date with Blue Lock and want more content like this, make sure to support the channel by subscribing, dropping a like, and leaving a comment with your thoughts. Thanks again for tuning in, and let's get right into it. So first, let's talk about whether or not Itoshi Sae will even be playing in the U20 World Cup arc. In the recent chapter 303, there's this awesome double spread panel where Henri is announcing some of the countries and players who will be participating, and if you look in the top left corner, it pretty much straight up says that all of the new generation World 11 players will be gathered for the U20 World Cup. That already tells me a lot, because if Sae is considered part of that new gen lineup, then how could he not be included in this arc somehow? Whether that means he's playing or even working alongside Ego, the setup is clearly pointing to him having a role in the story moving forward. At this point, it feels almost necessary, especially when you consider how much focus has been put into his relationship with Itoshi Sae and the future of Japanese football. There's also that big moment after the Blue Lock 11 vs Japan match, where Itoshi Sae straight up admits that Japan actually has hope now thanks to Isagi. That line is huge when you really think about how Sae used to act, because before this, he would always be cold and dismissive, constantly saying that Japan has no talent and no future. He wanted nothing to do with it. But now, that match clearly changed his perspective. And it wasn't just about Isagi or Itoshi Sae. That match also introduced him to Shida Ryuze, who he immediately clicked with and worked well alongside, which shows that Itoshi Sae already acknowledges at least 3 Blue Lock players as being worth his time. And the fact that he's been watching the new Egoist League this whole time, silently observing their growth, just adds more weight to the idea that his opinion of Japanese football is now evolving. If he already saw hope in that U20 match, then now with how far Isagi and the others have come, Japan probably looks like a legit powerhouse to him. Plus, we can't forget that the author has gone on record saying that Itoshi Sae and Isagi will team up one day. Unless that's something only meant to happen in the full World Cup or maybe a Champions League style arc later down the line, you would think that the U20 arc would be the perfect opportunity to do so. But that also leads to the other theory, which is that Sae might end up playing for Spain instead. He's been living in Spain for 5 years now, and based on how international eligibility works in real life, that's more than enough time for him to have gained Spanish nationality or even dual citizenship if a parent or grandparent's from there. In terms of real-world FIFA rules, a player can only represent a different country if they've lived there for 5 years after the age of 18, or if they have citizenship and haven't played a competitive senior level match for another country. And since Itoshi Sae has only represented Japan at the U20 level and hasn't officially played for the senior team, this seems to mean he could switch sides if he wanted to. All of the FIFA rules and regulations do apply to the U20 players, they're just very loose and not strict because they know that they're growing, up and coming, and want to give them more flexibility. That kind of twist would be wild and honestly be the type to push hype for that match to a whole new level. Imagine Sae walking out in a Spain jersey and facing off against Japan, not out of spite, but as a way to test Blue Lock one last time to see just how far they've really come. It would add so much tension and give Isagi and the others a new reason to prove themselves, especially if Sae frames it as, show me it's actually worth coming back to Japan for the real World Cup. But even though that sounds cool in theory, there's also a chance it could feel a bit repetitive since we've already gotten a Sae vs Blue Lock match. So unless they shake things up and do it from a completely different angle, it might not hit as hard the second time around. He didn't really go all out against them the first time though, so maybe the U20 World Cup will just be him going all out and showing that he's actually far better than anyone could have imagined. Or since bro is obsessed with winning the Champions League rather than the World Cup, maybe he could just not participate, despite what the text on 303 said. Now here's an interesting wrinkle though, Japan's U20 roster is technically full of 23 players that are already announced, so how could Sae fit in if he's to play for Japan? That's where Baratsuda, the JFU president, might come into play. Since he can't really profit off Nagise Shiro anymore, he might push to have Itoshi Sae included in the official squad, leveraging his influence to bump Sae up despite the roster cap. Given Sae's rising reputation and potential, this would make sense from a narrative standpoint and also reflect the behind-the-scenes politics of football selections. Plus, according to real-world rules, there's sometimes flexibility to make a last-minute change due to injuries or tactical decisions, and the story could mirror that to get Sae in. Realistically though, if I had to guess, I think Itoshi Sae sticks with Japan. Maybe he won't even be on the field, but I could totally see him playing a mentor-type role or stepping in as one of Ego's assistant coaches. He's someone who sees the game differently, and whether it's through helping shape tactics or guiding certain players, he could have a major influence on the outcome of this arc. This tournament will have Blue Lock Japan playing against genuine teams with coaches, strategies, formations, and all that, so I'm sure Ego could use an extra pair of eyes to help create their own. and we still have all that unresolved drama between him and Itoshi, which is way too important to just left be hanging. Whether they end up teaming up or clashing over their philosophies and approach to the game, that tension absolutely needs to be explored now before the World Cup in my opinion. Maybe I'm thinking about this too linearly, I just would prefer them both be fully fledged independent characters by now, or at least before the World Cup. So yeah, whether Sae's playing for Japan, Spain, or coaching on the sidelines, or doing something completely unexpected, his role in this arc is wide open. But given how important he's been to the story so far, I really don't see a future where he just fades into the background. Anyways, aside from that, I want to talk about this intriguing theory going around that Itoshi Sae possibly is dying in the Blue Lock manga. This theory actually comes from a Twitter user called Where's the Ball, and I'll link their thread in the description if you want to check it out yourself because there's a lot more I won't go into detail about. For starters, when Sae and Rin were kids, there's this moment where Sae tells Rin he'll be his ally until the day he dies. What's even more interesting is that right after that, the focus kind of switches from Sae to Isagi, which the theorists use to suggest that Isagi is almost meant to replace Sae in some way. They bring up the PXG match where Isagi says he'll take on Sae's role, and Itoshi even says he'll find someone to replace Sae, eventually choosing Isagi. There's also this panel showing both Sae and Isagi where it says, "The one who will survive is me." Obviously on the surface, he's talking about surviving Blue Lock, but the theorist thinks there might be a double meaning there. Personally, I think it's probably just a coincidence and meant to show Sae recognizing the upcoming egoist in Blue Lock and their ambitions. It's fun to theorize, but in my opinion, a lot of this can be explained differently. Itoshi Sae is no longer by Rin's side as the striker he once knew as a child, so technically, Sae has already died in a metaphorical way to him. As for Isagi taking Sae's place, it's just meant in a way of being able to handle the berserker version of Rin in a real-life match just like Sae did and take the full force of the destructive impulses. Another big point they want us to consider is Sae's physical condition. We know his body deteriorated during his time in Spain. When he came back, Rin noticed he had lost a lot of weight, which is pretty concerning since he'd been even thinner than he was at 13 years old. The light novel even hints that Rin wonders if Sae isn't feeling well, so the idea that Sae might have overtrained and neglected his health in Spain does sound plausible, especially considering he was going from carefree about being food to very strict. That said, if we look at the U20 panels where Sae is shirtless, showing his physique, or the hologram shown off in the series, he actually looks to be in very good physical condition. He has proper weight and muscle tone, so I feel like Sae is meant to look depressed and mentally drained rather than physically weak if you know what I mean. Then there's Rin's goal to kill Sae. This is obviously not about literal death, but a metaphor for beating him on the soccer field. Still, Rin repeatedly says things about wishing Sae were dead, which is a classic trope where someone wishes a loved one were dead until it actually happens. The theory goes on to explore Sae's obsession with time and his careful use of energy, his emotional distance from Rin, his unlucky streak compared to Rin's luck, and a lot more. They interpret many scenes like the snowy night where Sae looks sad and pushes Rin away, or Sae's comment about broken toys not getting better, as foreshadowing his potential death or permanent injury. It's like he wants to preserve his time so we can watch Rin become the best before it's too late. On the other hand, I think many of these moments can be seen as emotional or psychological struggles rather than physical. Sae pushing Rin away could be about making him stronger emotionally and mentally, not because Sae is dying. The broken toy comment, his perfectionism, and the focus on his appearance can symbolize Sae's internal battle with his identity and mental state rather than a terminal illness. Even the theory mentions Sae's manga cover showing a crumbling chain, and it might reflect his feelings of being trapped or broken in a metaphorical way instead of foreshadowing death. The gold paint over his chain might represent a false sense of perfection that hides his real struggles. Lastly, it's important to note that some ideas in the theory come from the Blue Lock PWC, as they say, a fan project that's not officially canon, but has made some accurate predictions about the story before. While this theory is way out there, it's definitely worth talking about as it adds a darker and more emotional layer to Sae's character, and it's just interesting. All in all, I don't think that Itoshi Sae will literally die in this story, but this theory raises fascinating points about his mental and emotional state and the kind of struggles he might be facing behind the scenes. Whether it's physical illness, burnout, or just symbolic death of the person Rin once knew, Sae's journey is definitely one I've been interested to learn more about the entire series. At worst, if Itoshi Sae plays for an opposing team like Spain in the U20 World Cup arc, I do think that it's plausible and would be cool, not in a good way, for Itoshi Sae to be injured by his brother and possibly have his career ended. So yeah, that's the theory. Whether you fully buy into it or not, I think it opens up a really interesting angle on Sae's character that isn't often talked about. The idea that he might be quietly dealing with his own internal collapse while still trying to shape Rin's path adds a lot of emotional weight to his presence in the story. Even if he doesn't end with literal death, the themes of legacy, identity, and personal sacrifice are all there, and it gives us a deeper appreciation for what he might be going through. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, and definitely check out the original theory in the description. Also, do you think Itoshi Sae will actually play in the U20 World Cup arc? And if he does, will it be for Japan or maybe Spain? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more Blue Lock content, and comment below any video ideas you'd like to see. For those of you who made it this far, here's a little teaser for a future video as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and please have an amazing day.